Robert Griffin III recently had some comments to make about the Cleveland Browns in regards to them drafting Shedeur Sanders, and it makes zero sense. I'm not even going to lie. We're also going to talk some wide receivers on the Cleveland Browns and more to pursue. Browns 3D starts now. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things dog. Browns 3D on the OBR streaming network, and we're thrilled to have you with us. And we always thank and appreciate all of you. Come on out to the OBR for all your Cleveland Browns news, whether it's in the form of written content every day from our fabulous group of writers, or to the OBR streaming network starting every night at 6 o'clock with Browns 3D, hosted by myself, of course. Tonight, Wednesday, you will get the legends, Fred Greetham, Barry McBride, on at 7 o'clock, talking about all your favorite Cleveland Browns topics. Make sure you subscribe to the OBR on YouTube, and of course, subscribe to the OBR over on Twitch. So, Robert Griffin III's comments on the Browns and their selection of Shedeur Sanders, and basically saying that the Browns drafted Shador and buried him at the quarterback 4 spot on the roster. This is so bewildering. I don't even know where to go with this. Like, first of all, are you even going to try to give the team that stopped the slide of Shedeur Sanders a hard time? The Browns are supposed to be given a hard time, and they were the ones that actually selected Sanders. Also, Sanders was a 5th-round pick. And let's be completely honest here. There is not a 5th-round pick in the history of the NFL that has ever been guaranteed anything. If you feel Shador should have been drafted higher, which I absolutely do, facts are facts, and he is a 5th-round pick. He comes in and plays better. The opportunities certainly should be there. Buried? You said he's buried on the roster? Behind who? 40-year-old Joe Flacco, who, even if you find the most excited Cleveland Browns fans who are happy that Joe Flacco is back, none believe that Joe Flacco can probably give you a 17-game season as a starting quarterback. So no, Shedeur Sanders is not buried behind 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Kenny Pickett was a first-round pick in the 2022 NFL draft. He is already on his 3rd NFL team. He is on the final year of his rookie contract. If all goes well between rookies Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders starting at Browns rookie minicamp this week and continues through training camp and continues through preseason games, Kenny Pickett most likely is not even going to be on the Cleveland Browns final 53-man roster. So you're telling me Shedeur Sanders is buried behind Kenny Pickett? Come on. Dillon Gabriel. Yes, Browns loved Dillon Gabriel. Probably more than any other team in the draft process did. But Dillon Gabriel drafted 94. Shedeur Sanders drafted 144. There's really not much of a difference, honestly. If you want to say Gabriel starts ahead of Sanders on a, depth chart, that's probably the case. But there's no guarantee that if there's a straight competition between the two, that Gabriel's going to win this thing, in a landslide. Sorry, don't buy it. The other thing is the Browns, with the way their quarterback room is currently constructed, you would most likely say that the odds of Shedeur Sanders actually getting a starting game as a rookie are probably greater than 10%, maybe a little bit less than 20%. Heck, maybe even a little bit less than 25%. That's the legitimacy of this Browns room. Everyone here has a shot. When's the last time a 5th-round quarterback would have had a percentage to start a game as a rookie that high. I think Griffin's comments were egregious. I think it sounded like somebody that maybe had an axe to grind with an organization he once played for. But I mean, to sit here and say that the Cleveland Browns did a disservice to Shedeur Sanders by drafting him in the 5th round at 144 overall might be one of the more ludicrous things I've ever heard in my entire life. Especially seeing the way the room is constructed, and especially seeing as the Browns wanted to skew the quarterback room to the younger side. They did that. We all just misconstrued, how it was meant to be said. A year from now, the Cleveland Browns quarterback room will probably have a 25-year-old, a 24-year-old, and a 21 or 22 or a 23-year-old. That'll be your Cleveland Browns quarterback room in 2026. So yes, that would be skewing your quarterback room towards the younger side. I don't know what you're thinking, Robert Griffin, and I actually appreciate your work a lot. Unfortunately, here, to me, to this situation, your comments make absolutely no sense. Sanders went to one of the best possible places for him to see immediate playing time and went to a place where we have learned over the last few weeks that is led by a general manager in Andrew Berry that Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders really grew to appreciate the more opportunities they got to meet and talk with in Andrew Berry. Robert Griffin III, poor look, my man. Poor look. We're going to get into some wide receiver talk today. But again, this is going to start with comments that I just don't feel are accurate. Elijah Moore and, the Jets situation obviously did not go well for Elijah Moore. I think 2023 in Cleveland went pretty good for Elijah Moore. 2024 obviously did not. But, you want to point your finger at the way the teams were constructed. The fact that, there was always different quarterbacks. Yeah, that part of this is true. Yes, there was a lot of, revolving door at the quarterback position for the Jets in 2022, and certainly for the Cleveland Browns in 2023 and then 2024. However, in 2022, as a rookie, Garrett Wilson had over 1,100 yards in the same situation as Elijah Moore. In 2023, Amari Cooper set the Cleveland Browns receiving yards record in a season. David Njoku had the best receiving year of his career in 2023 with a poor quarterback situation and a revolving door at the quarterback position. Elijah Moore was also part of that 2023 Cleveland Brown roster. 2024, Jerry Jeudy set career highs, had 90 receptions and well over 1,200 yards, and had an all-around monster year. Made a Pro Bowl. I think it was now his second team All-Pro. Yes, there was a revolving door at the quarterback position. And yes, Elijah Moore was also on that roster as well. I mean, how can you say these things and blame things? Look, you can put some onus on yourself every once in a while. You can't get moved out from one team because you're pointing fingers. You got moved on from the second team you were with who chose not to look to, agree upon a new contract with you. There is a reason why you were not signed by a team until after the 2025 NFL draft. Maturity. Make it about yourself. Don't point the fingers. Don't blame your misfortunes, unachieved success, lack of production on others. Because on these teams you were on, in these situations you were in, you say it was hard to succeed. But yet, other players who were on those same teams still found the way to succeed. This has kind of been Elijah Moore's problem to this point in the NFL. How he chooses to handle it in Buffalo, we'll see. Because an attitude like this, with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL and Josh Allen, is certainly not going to fly. Start to put some of the onus on yourself. Nobody wants to hear you make excuses. People will appreciate the people who continuously pile it on themselves. Nobody appreciates the guy that wants to point the finger at others. Now, early this morning, we got news that the Jacksonville Jaguars, after 1 year on a 3-year, $39 million contract with wide receiver Gabe Davis, and Gabe Davis slated to make $12.5 million this year, of which I believe $10 million was guaranteed. So Davis, who was released today by the Jacksonville Jaguars, has already pocketed $10 million in salary in 2025. When the Browns did not draft a receiver in the draft this year, it puts you back into a what's left on the market. At the time, Gabe Davis was not certainly on the market. The Browns entered into contract talks with Diontae Johnson, formerly of the Steelers, formerly of the Panthers, formerly of the Ravens, formerly of the Texans, and formerly of the Ravens again. I think I got that order correct. You got Diontae Johnson in here on a 1-year veteran league minimum deal, $0 guaranteed. This is a perfect type of move. A guy like Johnson might be a guy who is a better and more model citizen when he's chasing money as opposed to maybe already having money. Former second team All-Pro, been to a Pro Bowl. This was a good move. Browns got it for $0 guaranteed money. Gabe Davis, this could be the exact same type of situation. I think Gabe Davis, honestly, could fit with this Browns offense a little bit better than maybe even Diontae Johnson does. The Browns, through their run game, which leads to their play action game, leads to some deep shots, some deep opportunities. Certainly things that Gabe Davis has excelled at times in his career, most certainly with the Buffalo Bills, because he didn't really do much, unfortunately, last year with the Jaguars before tearing his meniscus on November 18th. I think it was 20 receptions, 290, something like that. But Gabe Davis could work. And it could be the same type of opportunity that you did with Diontae Johnson. You're not paying him anything. The money's probably not guaranteed. You're trying to find a way to get this wide receiver room right. You have certainly, Jerry Jeudy. You look at the way the rest of that room is constructed around a Cedric Tillman, and you're trying to figure it out from there. Diontae Johnson was a nice start. I think Gabe Davis certainly could work. There's, some rumblings already that maybe Gabe Davis and the New York Giants could be something, Brian Dable. And we always do this, right? When somebody's available, well, where's a regime? Where's a team that, maybe he fits, he sticks with them due to, relationships in the past. That doesn't always mean it's going to work. It doesn't even, who knows? Gabe Davis might not even like Brian Dable. Brian Dable might not even like Gabe Davis. But there is some talent in Gabe Davis. I don't know if it's necessarily wide receiver one talent. That's a little bit overblown. I would never go to that route, of course. But I mean, you go to that playoff game a few years ago, Buffalo in Kansas City, one of the better NFL playoff games in my mind that ever went down. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes just basically going blow for blow against each other. Gabe Davis was phenomenal in that game, had 3 touchdown receptions. There was nothing the Chiefs defense could do. Gabe Davis was in the zone that day. And probably hurt Gabe Davis a tad bit, if we're being completely honest, because you put together a game like that, a day like that, people expect that you have that ability, and people want to start to see it a little bit more on a more consistent basis. It just necessarily has not been the case. And that's where you get to situations where you are. But with drafting Hunter at 2 overall, the Jaguars pulled the plug real quick on this move. I'm assuming Davis has probably gotten all of his guaranteed money at this point. So this is a move, certainly, if you're the Browns, you're certainly going to consider, you're certainly going to look into for a guy like Gabe Davis. We know he can perform. Consistency is certainly the question. But what you're going to bring Gabe Davis in for on a dollar amount, most likely again, with zero money guaranteed, it is certainly worth a shot for a team that is desperate for assistance at the wide receiver position. This team does not have much at the wide receiver position after Jerry Judy, Cedric Tillman, and it's hard to figure out exactly where we're going to factor Deontay Johnson into all of this. Again, Deontay decides to play the role of a good soldier, model inmate, so to speak. He could be and should be a player for this team. After that, you're talking, Jamari Thrash. We're talking where David Bell is after a serious hip injury last season. We're talking about Michael Woods. But this team, was unable to find a way to bring somebody into the wide receiver room. And, as many of you know and listen here every day, I played that scenario out several times because where wide receiver was, it was not that it was important to Cleveland. It was important to Cleveland. But the problem is they just had so many holes, they weren't essentially going to be able to fill them all. And, if he had not taken Shador and you stayed at 166 within 192, those two selections were not going to answer your problems at wide receiver. There was nobody available there. There was not much available even on day 2 at the wide receiver position. The thoughts on these guys as wide receivers were varying. They were all over the board. Nobody was sure exactly what any of these guys could bring to the table. It was a strange class. It was a weird class. It's not probably going to be the case that way next year, just like quarterback wasn't the norm this year. Now, obviously, there's a lot of talk, certainly surrounding the wide receiver position and how to improve this room. And certainly when a player like George Pickens gets traded today, it brings up, the possibility of, what can the Browns look for? Can the Browns trade for? Pickens traded to the Dallas Cowboys. And the thing is you're getting in a position right now where, you have players that could be available in Pickens' case, where the team just does not have the confidence in offering the player a contract extension. And in Pickens' case, it's not talent. George Pickens has got talent. I mean, his stats don't blow you away. They don't scream number 1 wide receiver by any means whatsoever. Solid 2, sure. As far as, 20-yard air receptions over the last 2 NFL seasons, Pickens is tied with Justin Jefferson for 20. We know he's got talent. We know he's got ability. He's got a 2-cent head. He's his own worst enemy at times. The amount of times you have to see or did see Mike Tomlin having to counsel him, talk him down from a tree, etc. These types of things put the Steelers in a situation where they basically just jettisoned one of their best playmakers. He's going to go to Dallas, and I don't know how it's going to work there because Dak Prescott has CeeDee Lamb. They have a great rapport, obviously. And now you have Pickens in a new situation on a contract year. Who knows? But you tell me George Pickens is out of the AFC North. The Browns no longer have to deal with him. I'm good, man. I'm more than good, George. Enjoy Dallas. So you get to this situation where these are the type of guys that would be available. It's basically guys getting towards the end of their rookie deals that the teams that drafted them may not be comfortable extending. I know a popular name is Romeo Dobbs, from Green Bay. and I don't disagree. Certainly think it's an interesting name. But if you're getting, sometimes the team who drafted you was also the team that's going to tell you what you need to know about said player. Pittsburgh told us what they felt about George Pickens. Green Bay, the situation may be a tad bit different as far as the fact they are really deep at the wide receiver position. But also, Romeo Dobbs was the guy early last year that was unhappy, extremely unhappy, because there were too many receivers in Green Bay, and basically Dobbs was not getting any opportunity. But just because you didn't play doesn't mean you're proven. And with a case like Dobbs, that's exactly the case. So again, where is the value for a player like that? Maybe the Browns, with a move like Deontay Johnson, said, well, we kind of know what he is. And even if we have some confusion about what he can actually bring us, it's better than giving up a draft pick and having a player that we got to make a contract decision on for only one season. Which certainly to me makes the thing with Gabe Davis appealing as well. Get in a guy that you have seen perform in this league, have seen shine at times, and then maybe next year in the draft, when you have 9 selections in 2026, you can revisit all of this and hopefully the class is better. And then you can now make a commitment to a wide receiver for 4 seasons, possibly even 5 seasons. The room as a whole, it's going to be interesting the way it works out. Because, Judy at 90 and 1,200 plus, can he give you the same numbers? I think he could, but it's not necessarily about the statistical output. It's about what the team does. So Jerry Judy going out there and giving you 90 and over 1,200, whatever, that's fantastic. But that's what he did last year, and the team was only 3-14. This team needs, better balance, needs certainly more playmakers, needs, David Njoku to be healthy, hopefully for a 17-game run. You need players like Quinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson and Harold Fannin to be able to give you something. You need a guy like Cedric Tillman to look like he did for that 3-week stretch in 2023 that went from late October to early November, where Tillman was averaging over a 3-game pace, 8 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. 6 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown over 3-game space. You get all that, your offense looks improved. Also, it depends on what you get, and do you get consistency out of any of these 4 quarterbacks that are going to go to camp, whether it's Flacco, Pickett, Gabriel, or of course Shedeur Sanders. The wide receivers will be key. And, I think the Gabe Davis signing is something that really, really interests me, just because, a guy with disability shouldn't be, a guy that is necessarily available this time of year. Again, he's proven he can contribute. He's proven he can produce. Probably has the top shelf, I would say, the ceiling ability of a wide receiver too. He is only 26 years old, just turned 26 on April 1st. So you're certainly getting him at a good time with a, 1-year prove it type of thing here as he tries to get, builds up another contract on the free agent market. But make no mistake, this is, what's going to be very important, as far as whatever quarterback plays is certainly going to be how them and, of course, the wide receiver core can work hand in hand as far as, finding a way to, keep the offense on the field, generate yards, generate points, all of those things. Certainly, you want to be aided, hopefully, with a better run game, better over offensive line play, more in line than what we've kind of been accustomed to when we talk about the names of, Joe Bitonio, Ethan Posick, Wyatt Teller, Jack Conklin, and even, the 2023 version of DeJuan Jones. You mix in, of course, the Quinshawn Judkins, you mix in Dylan Sampson, and you think you have, a recipe for hopefully balance, spread out balance, and, multiple upon multiple skill players who can contribute within that offense. We got the rookies coming to town. I know everybody's excited. We're all excited. My heart breaks for, a lot of you Cleveland fans right now. Certainly, this Cavs series has not started off the way you guys were all expecting. Heartbreaking, brutal loss last evening, of course. You know, you can't be up 14 at home going to a fourth quarter of a playoff game and lose. It's just that's the stuff that'll, burn you on the inside. But hopefully, rookie camp is something you guys can all, look forward to. First looks at everybody, certainly, in the brown and orange. Dylan Graham, Judkins, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin, Dillon Gabriel, Dylan Sampson, Shedeur Sanders. It's gonna be fun to get a idea of these guys. Safety Donovan McMillan, the undrafted free agent out of University of Pittsburgh, was all ACC for 2 years at Pitt. Didn't get an NFL combine, which spurned Donovan McMillan, spurned him to the point where he kind of just blew up his pro day. And this was after being recognized at both the All-Star games he went to for his abilities at the safety position. Again, a guy that came to a great situation. And number one, Donovan McMillan comes to the Browns, and there's already been a propensity here to keep undrafted free agent safeties around. The Anthony Bell, Ronnie Hickman. There are not a lot of safeties overall on the Browns roster right now. So for Donovan McMillan, he comes in with a legit chance, obviously, to not only make the team, but a chance to contribute at least early as a special teamer. Guys, I'm certainly looking forward to this week. Obviously the drafted rookies. Certainly a guy like Donovan McMillan. But that whole Griffin's comments things on Shedeur Sanders again, it just some guys and I don't know if there's just guys out there that seem to stand up for everything. And look, I mean, if your problem was that Shedeur Sanders didn't deserve to be drafted 144th overall and he deserved to go higher, nobody's going to disagree with you. Nobody. What did we all say? He maybe wasn't worth the number 2 overall, but he certainly was worth more than 144th overall. The draft is a funky, fluky business. And everybody, oh, well, this is the reason. This is, look, I think we all think we know the reason, and I all think some of us probably don't know the reason as to just what exactly happened and why Shedeur Sanders slid where he did. But none of it matters. It doesn't matter anymore. He's been drafted. He is now a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And whether Robert Griffin III wants to believe it or not, this is a legit opportunity for Shedeur Sanders and probably one of the better opportunities he's going to get. I hear people, oh, well, they're not going to be able to sneak him on the practice squad. If they drafted Shedeur Sanders at 144th overall, they pretty much understood and said, well, this isn't just a 4-month audition. And if we got to cut him in August, we'll cut him. He plays extremely terrible. There's certainly an option that could happen. I don't think it's going to happen. But everybody that says, oh, well, he's going to be moved on from, again, I don't see how. You didn't draft a quarterback in the 3rd round and the 5th round with the intention of moving on from either one of them. They told us they wanted the quarterback room to skew younger. We just didn't know exactly what that meant as far as a today, tomorrow type of thing. And, there was no follow-up question to that. Not that Andrew Berry would have answered it anyway. So we continue to just put out, the best episodes we can as the weeks go on here, the OBR. Again, the OBR streaming network starts every evening, Browns 3D, hosted by myself, Jeff Lloyd, at 6 o'clock. Various shows throughout the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It being Wednesday, you will have Fred Greetham. You will have Barry McBride, of course, up after me at 7 o'clock, talking all your major and big Cleveland Browns topics currently. Browns 3D on the OBR. We appreciate you all for joining us. Again, make sure you're subscribed to the OBR on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed to the OBR over on Twitch. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. Browns 3D on the OBR, and we will talk to y'all tomorrow.